What's up, fellas?
Hey, hello, folks. This is Stoli. It is Masters Week, and we have the wonderful opportunity to talk to Neil Everett today. Great opportunity, and it's great to have you here, Neil. How's it?
How's it? I mean, we're just jumping right into it. We've just,
I was thinking the same thing. I thought there'd be
we
a little bit of a
yeah,
soft intro. This guy,
yeah.
he's a little nervous, Neil.
He's ready. He push play and record. Let's roll.
Yeah. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How about you guys?
We are doing well.
This is a fun week for us during the Masters. This little competition. We're teachers on spring break, so we get to do it upright this week. So pretty excited about it.
And where are y'all at? Are you in Oregon?
We are in Northern California, Fairfield, California, but I'm from Portland. I went to U of O. My sister is actually Gigi Stoll. She plays on the LPGA. You gave her an award at the Oregon Sports Awards about 10 years ago.
I remember she won like 4 years in a row. I remember.
Yeah, at the Oregon Amateur. Yeah.
Yeah, good for her. Well, that's wonderful. That's wonderful that you're living off her reputation.
That's exactly what I do. I live off her reputation everywhere I go. You've got that right for sure. So just tell us a little bit about what you're up to these days, how you're doing, how life's going.
Life's going great. I worked the last 3 years, and hopefully there's a fourth year with the Portland Trailblazers. I think if they were a stock, I would say strong buy recommendation on the Blazers. I think they're headed in the right direction. Got some good young talent. I enjoy the hell out of it. It was the team I grew up rooting for. My parents were separated. My father lived in Portland. He took me to Blazer games, and I saw the guy with the long red hair, and I said, that's going to be my favorite player because he's got long hair. And that turned into, a beautiful friendship that, to the very end. So I appreciated that. And that's keeps me busy during the NBA season. And then my run just ended there a couple games ago. And so now I'm just, doing fun stuff like this with you fellas.
Nice.
Cool.
Nice.
Well, Rip Bill Walton, one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about the North Oregon coast. We hear you talk about on TV, you say things like grab a buoy, grab a pronto pup, hit the bumper cars. We actually play in the Oregon Coast Invitational. We've seen you there a couple times at Astoria. Gearhart, we run a Masters contest. That's what this is. And a lot of the people that do it are from Gearhart and that area. So I just want to hear you talk about your love of that area and some of the things you like to do, some restaurants you like, things like that.
Well, both my parents are from Astoria. So both my grandparents were from Astoria. So as a young kid, I spent a lot of time in Astoria. My mom went to Star of the Sea. My dad went to Astoria High. My grandpas both worked at Lovell Auto, which is now Fort George Brewery.
We love that place.
Love that one.
And so as a little kid, you loved Seaside because that's an attractive spot for a little kid with the Fultano's pizza and the
Oh, yeah.
arcades and the 10 tiny teas and all that. And I ended up marrying a gal whose mom was also from Astoria, and we said, you know what, we should look to get a house on the Oregon coast if we can find one, and we did. And we've got a place in the Cove that borders the second hole of Seaside National.
Oh, yes, we
So
love that place.
there you go, the best 9 holes going. And so we spend as much time as we can, which isn't nearly enough up in that area. Just I think it's probably something in our DNA, fellas, where that's where you're from, and that's where you're bound to end up in one form or another. So it's been a wonderful life thus far. And since we're talking golf, I'm on about 15 right now, and I'm trying to play real slow.
There you go. So Neil Stoll's from Oregon. He's going to ask a lot of Oregon questions. I'm just a big fan of you. Growing up, I was watching you, and it was awesome. I heard he could get you for an interview. I was like, that's cool. Actually, at the tournament one year, I saw you. You actually complimented this shirt, so I figured I'd wear it again.
All right.
More importantly, I heard you were an all-city lineman in high school. I was also an all-city lineman here at my local high school. I just want to know, we're the unsung heroes. Do you have any big plays? Did you play against any players? Were there any moments as a lineman
Oh
in
yeah.
high school you were like, you'll remember for a lifetime?
Well, yeah. I mean, Spokane had Spokane's Mount Rushmore's got three automatics, and they're uh, Ryan Sandberg, North Central High School, Mark Rippon, Shadle Park High School, John Stockton, Gonzaga Prep.
Oh yeah.
Sandberg was a senior when I was a freshman. Rippon and Stockton, Rippon was 1 year younger, and Stockton was the same class. I've known Mark Rippon since third grade because my stepdad coached him, and we went to summer camp together. I'd like to say I held John Stockton to no points when we played because I was never in the game when it was competitive. So, and then Ryan Sandberg, I remember him hitting a home run to knock us out of the baseball playoff possibilities as a freshman. Yeah, I was all city lineman, offensive lineman in one paper, and all city defensive lineman in another paper. I had a lot of anger issues back then, so because I was about $150 soaking wet. But as a fellow offensive lineman, although I don't really think of myself as one now, but if we're talking in that vein, is we're the brains of the organization.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know that the tractor doesn't move if we don't push it forward. So I enjoyed it. I'll tell you one funny story quick was I was at Seaside National, and I was in the putter room, and
I
there
know that
was
place well.
two fellas there with their wives, and I just kind of glanced over at him, and about a minute later I heard Neil, and I turned over, and it was one of my high school football coaches, and who I hadn't seen in forever. And so it's nice when you have an opportunity to revisit with those people in your life who made such a difference. And I don't think coaches, one, I don't think they inherently know, and two, if they do, I don't think they're going to take credit for it. But just how important of a building block, at least in my case, that they were. And so it was an opportunity now as a grown man, as a 60-year-old man, to tell my 80-year-old something coach, thank you for the things that you did for me that have transformed my life.
That's a pretty good story. So I got to throw in here. I'm actually just coming from our high school baseball practice. I coach varsity baseball, and this guy after this is going to a varsity golf practice. So that's pretty cool mentioning the coaches and stuff. And we're right in the realm of it. So that's a great story.
And this
You
is
mentioned
Golf
the
Game Show. Oh, sorry.
also Stoli, you mentioned the hey, this is bartender Stoli. I mean, come on. Geez, that was just a layup right there. You mentioned the Coast Invitational. That is where I would go every year as a kid to make my money for the school year. Because that's back when there was all caddies there, and I'd be hugging a bag around that was bigger than me. And I remember one time my dad got me on. Usually, I was on the guys in the sixth flight where there's nothing at the people.
We know about that.
The people's champions,
Yes.
and but my dad one time got me he got me on a bag of a guy who was like maybe in the second flight, and I remember he was on 18. Guys back then smoked all the time, and the guy, he had a cigarette going, and he tossed it on the ground to go up to do his putt. Well, I'm like, oh, he didn't put his cigarette out. So I went over and stamped it out, not realizing that, that was his just version of putting it in the ashtray for a moment. After the putt, he would go get his smag. He won, but I was not invited back onto the bag. So I'm more comfortable with fellas like you who are playing in the sixth flight as opposed to the championship flight.
There you go.
Perfect. I actually have bartender written down here in one of my next few questions. And so just a pick for the Masters this week that you might have, and maybe a favorite drink, beer, cocktail that you would like to sit down and catch some golf with,
Well, the drink's easy. I'm going Bowie beer all the way.
Bowie beer.
Bowie beer, cream ale, So, Well, I mean, a lot of people are going to be on Rory, obviously, because he's overdue. From just because of the stage that he set earlier in his career. So um,
Yeah, I think
I've
Rory
got,
and
I've got,
Scheffler and Roy are heavy favorites.
are they? And Scheffler hasn't played that well, right? He hasn't won this year, which I mean, for him is saying something, but he's your reigning champion.
Yeah,
Um, I've got a little taste of Tony Finau as a 40-1 long shot.
there you go.
There's 20 players that are 50-1 or better, which means it's a top heavy field as opposed to somebody like a Russell Henley. I kind of got an eye on him as a possibility. He's a Georgia boy who was finished tied for fourth, not last year, the year before. He went bad, good, bad. So now good this year. My dad really likes this cat, Aberg.
Oh yeah,
And
legend.
he was on him last year, and I think he might have been a runner up or close to it. So that's my dad's choice. So those are a couple guys that I'm looking at. I mean, you don't even have to be a real serious golfer, which I'm not, to really enjoy this Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's covered so well on the television, and it just the thing about the Masters, unlike all the other events, it's like you're watching a postcard in motion.
For sure. The Azalea is absolutely beautiful.
Definitely has a certain aura about it. I know you love your Bowie beer, but I do my fair share of drinking. I always have before I went to the Coastal tournament. But these guys for years would talk about the Coastal Cooler made by Lydia. I was wondering if you've ever had a Coastal Cooler while you're there at the tournament or not, because after years of drinking, I found my favorite drink ever, and I can't wait till late July when I get to go back up and have one.
So what the Coastal Cooler is made at the Astoria Golf and Country Club?
It's a little grape juice, vodka, 7-Up, splash of orange juice.
Well, listen, I'm going to be back there this year, so fellas, we'll have a Coastal Cooler together because
Beautiful.
I'm not familiar with that drink.
And they're really good made by anyone, but there's a specific bartender there, Lydia, who's been doing it as long as I've been going. She's the greatest. She's great stories, great vibes, but an amazing cooler. So we'll have one this year.
My favorite bar in Seaside is the back of Knutson Insurance. So
Oh
that's
yeah. So I was just gonna say I've gotten to know Bob. I've hit the back of Knutson Insurance, and he's had a cooler with me, mostly Bowie though. And I was just wondering if you could share a story about Bob and Willamette University. I know you guys went there together, and anything that you could share about him.
Well, it was at the Astoria Coast Tournament where I was introduced. A friend of my grandpa wanted to introduce me to this guy Bob Knutson, and Bob took me under his wing that day and shared some. Hey, I was headed to Willamette. I didn't know anybody, so it was nice to have a face to go with when I got dropped off in Salem. My parents dropped me off, and the first thing I immediately did was go to the Beta House because I knew that's where Bob Knutson lived. And, I pledged that fraternity, and he took me under his wing, and I could never, I don't have the words to thank him for how he took care of me as a young guy there. And plus, he married the prettiest girl at Willamette, and so he's got to get high five for that in Liz. But that whole family has been wonderful to me, and I love them dearly.
That's awesome. Well, I didn't go to Willamette or U of O, but I did go to Chico State. I don't know how familiar you are with Chico State, but everyone when I mention it, they go, "Oh, big party school, big party." And I wanted to ask
First thing that came to my mind.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, Willamette University or U of O, who had the better parties?
Well, that's University of Oregon. It's not even close.
I knew you had to say it. I knew it.
Not even close. Now, Willamette had a lot of things going for it, but when you're in that small of a radius that Willamette was, you're not getting away with a whole lot. Whereas Oregon, I transferred from Willamette to Oregon after spending 2 years at Willamette and realizing that kegs was not an appropriate major. I went to U of O where I majored in journalism, but I was allowed to minor in kegs.
Oh, there you
So
go.
it it all worked out well. I'm the luckiest guy around. I spent 2 years at Willamette and met guys like Bob Knutson, and I could name 100 guys right now. And then I went down to Oregon and I slid right into the beta house there, and I met another 100 guys, that I still call friends. So I really value my time in both those frats, and those fellows all mean a lot to me.
So I also was a journalism major at the University of Oregon. I probably actually majored in kegs a little more than you did, but I have to ask at the U of O, Rennie's, Taylor's, Max's. Those were my favorite bars. I heard you mention a few of them on the air. I think maybe a few of them might be closed these days, but your opinions on those? Which one was your favorite?
Well, my girlfriend turned wife turned ex-wife worked at Rennie's.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so but I'm gonna go off the board and go BJ Kelly's,
I have not
which
heard of it.
well, that's because you're a lot younger. And BJ Kelly's was the bar along that route that Tracktown's on, which name I can't think of right now, but it morphed into the a little physical fitness center of some sort. BJ Kelly's, I mean, we had Curtis Salgado play there. We had
Really?
Robert Cray play there. We had Robert Hunter of the Grateful Dead play there. We just had the San Francisco Light Show played there. My buddy Roman was the bouncer. I was the bartender. And that was the spot. But I didn't spend a lot of time at Taylor's. I remember Max's. I never made it to the Cooler while I was a student there, and yet that's where I always seem to wind up now. But BJ Kelly's, I got a soft spot for that, and the Oregon Electric Station, which has since closed down. I was a dishwasher at the Oregon Electric Station to get myself through college.
Right. Well, I could probably ask you about this stuff all day, but we'll wrap it up. And this summer, Astoria Country Club, we need to have a coastal cooler.
Coastal Cooler it is, fellas. I'll look forward to it.
Awesome. Nice chatting with Neil. Big fan, and I appreciate you doing this.
Bartender.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Later.